Hello everyone, I'm really happy to see all you here, and today I'm going through the best practices in dashboard design. To know a little bit more about me, let me introduce myself. I'm Shahab Hoghooghi, independent BI consultant and Power BI developer with extensive experience in different industries such as mining, human resources, energies, lotteries, finance, employment, government, and so on and so forth. My education background was in design studies, which helped me a lot during my work experience. Indeed, I use design principles in designing dashboards to make my products to be more user friendly. About my company, Hogolytics. I have a team of data analysts, engineers, and BAs supporting businesses in their data projects. So, if you need data consultation, you can easily scan this QR code to connect me on LinkedIn and have a chat. Also, we help data leads and managers to save their times in finding data talents for their teams. As we are data experts, we do all the recruitment processes for them, including sourcing and technical interviews. So if you're looking to find a new team member, contact me and our team will support you. Dashboards are the tools which provide values based on the company's information and requirements. However, sometimes they cannot fully represent their capabilities. These challenges are usually coming from the inadequate focus on designing and improving the visual aesthetics of the dashboards. So, today I'm going to talk about the importance of dashboard design and some do's and don'ts which helps you to create more usable dashboards. Dashboards are very important to represent the organizational information, but they usually cannot achieve their best performance. This is a big challenge for developers and make many questions about the necessity of using dashboards. But fortunately, dashboards are still providing lots of advantages that persuades everyone to use them. It is very interesting that usually developers who are creating dashboards don't pay attention to the design aspects of dashboards, which will be resulted in lower effectiveness and usability of your dashboards. In fact, insufficient availability of technology is not the reason for low user interactions with the report, but this happens because of the poor design application. Indeed, the success of a dashboard is a fruit of a good design, a solution which talks to users and provides a clear answer to them. So, it's worthwhile to review some previously created dashboards and see how they poorly designed. I'll pass these few slides a little bit faster and we'll talk about the common mistakes in dashboard design later. This is a very bad example of a dashboard design. In this dashboard, it's very hard for users to get the required information. Or this one, I personally get headache when looking at it. This one is very interesting. You cannot understand what's happening here and how to compare the numbers. This one shows the wrong use of color and other design elements which will be discussed later. And this one is an example of a fancy dashboard which is invaluable to make a decision and solve the business problems. So, first we should see what dashboard is. Please pay attention to the red lines. A dashboard is a visual display of the most important information needed to achieve one or more objectives. So the first thing is it needs to show the most important information to solve a problem or achieve business objectives. This dashboard should be consolidated and arranged on a single screen so the information can be monitored at a glance. This means the information in our dashboard should only be available in one screen, and all the required information should be captured at a glance. Lego. Probably all of us were fan of Legos when we were child. We were creating homes, cars, and many more things using a story in our mind with those small bricks. The data world is very similar to this fantasy world when playing with Legos. These days, organizations are gathering data from lots of different sources. Data has different types, like the Lego bricks, that should be organized and cleansed to get the required information. Then, this information can be given to users like a story, which helps the business to make the proper decisions. We, as a dashboard designers, should try our best to create a dashboard which can tell the story to make the decision-making processes easier. There are 13 common mistakes in designing a dashboard, which will be discussed during this session, one by one. The first issue is exceeding the boundaries of a single screen. This is consisting of two parts. The first one is fragmenting data into separate screens. As discussed, a dashboard should be presented in only one screen, but generally it is a strength to allow users to navigate between dashboards for accessing to the detailed information. However, this can be challenging when users need to see all the information at a glance. In fact, it is a big mistake to split the information in different pages when they need to be seen in one screen. For example, here, a banking executive should check different key performance indicators for the business, like growth, deposit, loan, and risk. Any of these information, including numbers and calculations, are available in a separate page. Unlike what we consider from this page, named as highlights, we cannot see any information, which shows a summary of all information beside each other for better comparison. In fact, the executive need to see all these main numbers and calculations beside each other to find out their impact on each other. Or this example, you can see some calculations for 20 different products in different pages. This dashboard is acceptable if the sales manager only needs to see the sales performance for each product separately. But this dashboard fails if they need to see the profit and loss of different products beside each other and compare these numbers together. The next point in using a single screen for your dashboard is avoiding to use scrolling. In this example, you can see you need to scroll to see all the information which is not available at a glance. This is really a big mistake that we can see only the top 2 or 3 items in each table, and the rest of the info are hidden from our viewpoint in the first site. The truth is, people think that what is not in their immediate viewpoint and needs more effort to see has less importance than what they can see immediately. Also, many users don't bother themselves to scroll and see what's available outside of the main screen. Even who do this scrolling won't be happy. The next mistake is sometimes you are creating a visual that doesn't have sufficient description, or it cannot transfer its values to the users. The gates here have some important information, but can you see that you're not able to transfer their valuable info to the users? For example, the middle gate shows us we sold X units of the products, but what it means. Does it mean our sales were great or it didn't meet our expectations? At least gates could have some numbers which could be more meaningful for us. You can see how much easier to show all this information in the table below. It's much easier to read and more understandable for users, and they can make better decisions. The next probable mistake is using over-precise information or lots of details on dashboard. The dashboard needs to show only the main and important information which is required for better decision-making processes. For example, in this dashboard, have a look at those two red rectangles I mentioned for you. In the below table, you can see the numbers have 4 to 10 decimal points, which I believe is not necessary, and maybe 1 or 2 decimal points are enough for us. Or in this top one, you can see the alert date time shows us the precision in seconds. Do you think we really need them? A measure is only meaningful when we know what should be measured and what units should be used. The calculations are not working when the users cannot understand its meaning clearly. In this case, you can see the budget and actual revenue in two different lines. What is important and hard to understand here for users is to find out the difference between the budget and actual revenue. Indeed, the variance is the key factor here for users. So, it's required to replace the last visual with this one on our dashboard to show the variance and makes us able to check the performance. Using a wrong visual on a dashboard is one of the most common mistakes that all of us probably face with it. It is crucial to use some visuals that can easily transfer information to users without any misunderstanding. For example, pie charts are one of the worst graphs to use on our dashboards. Here you can see Facebook has 40% of the market share, but how this visual shows us helps our brain think unconsciously half of the market is in Facebook's hands. Or YouTube shares is 25%, but it seems it gets more than 1/4 of the market. This chart shows the comparison between cost and revenue. You can see how difficult it is to read the information from this visual to make the comparison. It is much easier to show the same information in a column graph like the below one. You can understand how much easier for someone to get the required info. So always put the user's shoes on, and instead of using weird and fancy graph, try to use a graph which can transfer the precise information in a short time. Using meaningless visuals is another mistake some developers make. Do you know where it happens? When you think that you use too many tables or column graphs, and now it's the time to use some different visuals. This is the meaningless visual trap. For example, here you can see different types of visuals, which increase the time and effort for users to understand what should be transferred to them. The next mistake is using a poorly designed visual which cannot make the clear connection with users. Unfortunately, most of the graphs used in different businesses are poorly designed. And it's because who are usually creating these graphs, they didn't have any training about fundamentals and principles of design. The left graph in this page is very hard to understand. The only thing we can understand from this pie chart is that light blue has the highest share and then the purple one. The rest of the colors are very close to each other and it's very hard for users' eyes to distinguish between them. Apart from that, they didn't use the correct category labels. According to my experience, try not to use pie chart and donut charts as much as you can. And if it is asked to use, only use when the categories are not more than 2 or 3. It is correct that the bar graph is one of the best to show the information, but misusing them can be resulted in making mistakes. In this bar graph, there are two things which makes it challenging for users. First, the vertical and horizontal guidelines makes reading the numbers hard. I recommend not to use these guidelines when you are using bar or column graphs, and instead use labels on the bars. The second mistake is using a three-dimensional representation, which makes it hard to read the data accurately. Sometimes quantitative data are being displayed in a way that shows inaccurate values. Here you can see the vertical axis scale is not defined correctly. Each column shows the revenue and cost. And you can see how easily a mistake in defining the scale can be resolved in reading the incorrect numbers. For example, in January you can see revenue is $1 million, and the scale shows the cost is around one-fifth of it. But the correct cost is around $600,000. So it's very important to pay attention that our visuals don't make any issue in reading the correct numbers. Dashboards should show a large amount of information in a limited space. So if we won't organize them correctly, there isn't any result except a mess. This important information have to be clear and bold. It should be seen immediately when the user look at the dashboard. In fact, the dashboard should be designed in a way that enable users to get the answers for their business problems immediately. For example, in this dashboard, the mistake in placing the visual and design with dashboard is clear. It is not clear which visual is more important than the others. The developers placed them wherever they liked, with different colors, which can be resulted in confusion. Let's describe in this way. Human's eye sees the dashboard in this pattern, like a Z shape. It means that the most important visual must be placed on the top left, then top right, then bottom left, and then bottom right. It means that the least important one should be placed in number 4 on the bottom right. How I usually create my dashboard is something like this. However, this is optional and you can design your dashboard based on the requirements of the projects. I mean, there isn't any must to follow this approach. These are all best practices. But more important than the best practices is the business needs. So try to change the design based on the requirements of the project, but don't underestimate these important factors. Box number 1 is the place we need to place the company's logo. Box number 2 is where we have to insert dashboard title. Our users should easily understand what this dashboard is about at the first glance. Box number 3 is where I usually place the last refresh date time. But as I previously mentioned, based on your requirements, you can move it to bottom right or bottom left. This box number 4 is the most appropriate area to place our filters and slicers. It is possible that you have just 1 or 2 slicers, or based on your design, you need a wider space. So again, you can change its position where it suits your design better. For example, below the title bar. And the next boxes are located in our main canvas where we should place our visuals. The same as previous slide, we need to place the most important visual in box 5, then to its right, number 6, then down left, area number 7, and then 8. So the most important visual should be placed in box 5 and the least important one in box 8. When you look at the dashboard, your eyes should catch the most important information immediately, even if they are not located in the most important area. The problem you can see in this dashboard is everything is in the same size, and this can be resulted in lack of focus on the important elements. You can see those buttons on the left-hand side, which are being used for navigation. They attract the highest attention, but unfortunately, they are not representing any information. And you can see all graphs were get bold and colored at the same level. So, users cannot concentrate on the most important information. It is true that everything on the canvas is important, but more important is users should first see the most important data. Another common mistake is using useless decorative elements on our dashboard. This happens because developers think if they use some decorative visuals and elements on their report, they can create a pleasant feeling for users. But you should remember These fancy elements may be attractive for users and they like them in the first days, but users believe will be changed after some days when they cannot extract the values from the dashboard. In this example, the dashboard designer tried to make this dashboard as much as possible similar to an electric control panel. If they aim to educate users like a simulation software, that's fine, but not as a dashboard. All you can see in this dashboard are fancy and decorative and don't have any other aim behind them, and cannot provide the opportunity to get the required info. Or here, the map, column graph, and table all are showing the same information, and the rest of the space filled with blue, white, and gray colors. I have a question. If you are the user for this dashboard, are you happy to look at this dashboard and use it every day? My answer is a definite no. In many cases, overusing colors is a big mistake. Colors should be selected wisely and think about the meaning of using each color from user's perspective. Some colors are warm and attracts people attention. Some are cold and people pay less attention to them. Also, when a color is different from others, it attracts users' attention. They think that should be something important in that visual which used a different color. The same. When two colors in two visuals are the same, human brain tries to make a connection between these two visuals. Many of us are thinking we should use red, green, and yellow for important things. But do you know that 1% of female and 10% of male are colorblind? And they cannot distinguish between these colors. Some dashboards are really designed very ugly. To be honest, when we look at an ugly dashboard, our brain tries to run away and don't look at it. So we can't get the required info from it. You may think this point has contradiction with the previous issue about using decorative and fancy elements, but it's not. When a dashboard is not appealing for users, they think it's useless too. When we say the dashboard should be attractive, it doesn't mean we need to use some elements which distracts users' attention. Indeed, we need to present the data in an attractive way. For example, this dashboard is not really interesting. Who designed this dashboard is tried to make this dashboard attractive, but it's clear he didn't have enough design knowledge. You can see he stretched the column graph on bottom right without any logical reason. It seems he only wanted to fill the extra space. Or the shadow around the visuals are too much dark. Maybe a slight gray was enough in this case. Or the image below the title doesn't have any result except distraction for the users. Always remember this point that simplicity can save you most of the times. And what I presented today is from this great book with a little bit changes regarding my experience. You can increase your design knowledge by reading this valuable book, Information Dashboard Design by Stephen Few. And the end. Thank you so much for attending this session. Hope to see you in the next lectures.